What are you doing?
Good.
What are you doing?
I'm skipping.
What?
How you doing with this?
What is that? Stop walking away from me.
It's a stream.
Okay, so why are you bouncing around all the way? You have any ID on you?
No.
Don't go anywhere. Alright, just relax.
Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm okay. I'm okay. Ah! Ah! Ah!
Stay down.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Don't move. Do you understand?
No, I'm okay.
Stop moving!
I am okay.
Don't you move, you understand?
Yeah. I need help.
Don't move.
I need help.
Don't stop moving.
So one of the biggest challenges that we have, of course, is to discern and make that judgment between someone who may have a disability and somebody who is in fact on drugs or alcohol. Hi, my name is Brett Sackett, and I am finishing up my 28-year career with the Sonoma County Law Enforcement. Last 11, I've been the police chief for the city of Sonoma. Some of the training that we put together, well, going back in California first and foremost, interacting with people with disabilities is part of the basic police academy, and it's also required in California for ongoing professional standards training. So every couple of years we have an additional update about interacting with people with disabilities. But that's the minimum, and I don't think any of us want to train to the minimum. So there are numerous nonprofits and educational institutions that provide additional training for law enforcement. And so I really encourage you as professionals to really train your staff, utilize these resources so that you can learn about the newest and best ways to interact with people with disabilities. I think one of the challenges that we have in law enforcement, as you know, is when we come on scene, we're required to make judgments on very little information. And so knowing some of the signs of autism in those people who may have communication disabilities is really an important thing. So one is kind of recognizing some of the signs, whether it's flapping of hands or rocking back and forth, or understanding that they don't like bright lights or loud noises. And so knowing that, understanding it, recognizing it can put us both in a position of much greater safety. We really encourage, whether it's parents or care providers, to really try to instill, to whatever level you can, respect for law enforcement and the importance it is to follow direction. Conversely, it's our responsibility as law enforcement professionals to really get out there to try to meet our community. So if you have homes for autistic adults or disabilities, that you get out there, you interact with them, you create relationships so you know who they are. Of course, much easier in small communities like ours as opposed to larger communities, but I think the more that you know your community, the better we're going to be. So there have been several incidents I can think of where our training has been beneficial to us. One off the top of my head I can think of is when we were responded to a call at a local market where somebody was acting out. So when we got down there, it was obvious to us that there was quite a bit of turmoil going on inside one of the aisles. And so when we slowed down and kind of looked at it, we recognized that the behavior that they were exhibiting were more indicative of somebody who may have a disability. We were able to slow down, clear the area, speak, softly and quietly to them, and eventually gain enough rapport with them that we're able to address what their issues were. We located their care provider and we reunited them, and we had a very successful outcome on that.
My name is Alexis Braswell, and I work at the Red Barn. The Red Barn is a therapeutic equine center that works with children and adults with special needs. We work with children with a wide variety of disabilities, many of whom have communication disorders. The role of horses when working with children with communication disorders is that horses provide an opportunity to be a voice for that child in a situation where they might not otherwise have one. Horses by nature are prey animals, so they operate out of a fight or flight response, much like a child with a disability or a communication disorder might. So in a stressful or scary situation, their first reaction is going to be to flee. Much like some of our children, when put in a stressful situation, they might also flee, which could in turn look like they are trying to avoid getting in trouble for something that they may or may not have done. Horses don't communicate using words. Horses communicate non-verbally, which is the same way that a lot of our children communicate. So in working with the horses, you have to be very aware of the signals that they're giving you and how you're impacting them. So you have to not only be attuned to them, but to yourself as well. So you need to be able to approach them in a quiet and controlled manner, being aware of if they're asking you to stop or to back off. Horses have space bubbles just like we do. Some kids with disabilities, or really people in general, have different size space bubbles. So it might be that 10 feet away is as close as you can get. And we need to be able to see those signs and respect that and say, okay, I can take a step back and give you the space that you need, but not interpret that space as guilt or trying to avoid them or flee the scene. Before I approach a horse, the first thing I want to do is check in with myself and make sure that I am calm, I'm not thinking about a lot of other things going on in my world, that I'm focused and in the moment. Horses force you to be present, which is very important. Once I start approaching the horse, I make sure that I approach them slowly and that I'm paying attention to any signs they might be giving me and that I'm respecting that. If they're telling me to stop, I stop and I wait until they invite me into their space again. I know when a horse is welcoming me or inviting me back into their space when they return back to a relaxed state. So they might go from looking really alert or irritated that I'm approaching them to maybe dropping their head and relaxing their eye a little bit, or just turning to greet me instead.